I grew up with a stutter. I got over it about 2.5 years ago. And since then, my life has completely changed.
That touches me so much as a mother going through a similar scenario. Let me introduce you to Hillel Krief. For over 20 years, a stutter kept him from doing the things he loved most: leading prayers, ordering at restaurants, excelling in job interviews, and even saying his very own name. He served in the IDF, got married, and finally found his voice, literally, through God, faith, love, and sheer will. I wish people could understand, this is not the same Hillel that I've ever spoken to before. Mm-hmm. What happened in this last year? Hillel Krief, welcome to the Jamie Geller Show.
Thanks for having me on. I made Aliyah about 10 years ago, and I grew up with a stutter. I got over it about 2.5 years ago. And since then, my life has completely changed. And I'm super happy to be here to discuss that.
I'm excited about it too. Let's dig in. Because I have something to share with you that I don't think you know, that I have a son who is going through very much what we're going to be speaking about today. And so it's a subject that's very, very near and dear to my heart. So you'll forgive me in advance if I get a little bit emotional.
That's fine.
I'm going to try to stay composed. So talk to me about what life was like, in fourth and fifth grade in grammar school.
Life was kind of just a normal thing. It's hard to think about the before, because I think that life was so intense, afterwards, in having a stutter. So before that, you don't really think about things, before they happen.
Which is very interesting because I always try to pinpoint for my son, was it the war? Was it COVID? Was something happening in school, socially? What happened that I suddenly started to see a development of a stutter? So is there something that you could point to, though, that you feel like now looking back about why this may have happened? Or is there just something that just happens?
I think that all stutterers try to go back and think it could have been this thing that happened or that thing, and in all the research that they have done for stuttering, they've basically come back with, we think, but we don't actually know.
Yeah.
So, but I was pre fourth and fifth grade, I was probably bullied a bit just because I was bad at sports. Mm-hmm. But a kid who has a stutter, that I think that they'll pretty obviously have a problem with some other kids. That's that's that can be expected. So that definitely made it worse as time went on.
It's so interesting because I think so many of us can relate to this, especially as women. I'm coming obviously from my own perspective, but finding our voice and being able to speak out and speak up. And I think I don't think we notice it. Like you said, you're growing up. And then suddenly when you hit adolescence and things change, and as a woman, to find your voice is very hard. And sometimes it fails you when it's been with you this whole time. Mm-hmm. What was it like to feel that suddenly this thing, that your voice, the way that you talk, which is much like breathing, not something you give much attention to, it just comes so naturally, starts to fail you?
I didn't even know what was happening then. I think in the beginning I was kind of confused. In the Sephardic type of synagogues, they put a big focus on kids taking part in leading the prayers, and I would do that a ton. It was the highlight of my week.
Yeah.
Especially on the high holidays, I would just stay in shul the whole time. Because I really enjoy that, and then at a certain point, I just couldn't do it anymore, and I would always try, and even after I was bar mitzvah, I would try to lead the prayers for at shul on Shabbat, and we had a great and very sensitive rabbi who he never told me no. Which which it hurt me in some ways because I got up there and failed.
Do you feel like, though, you failed? Meaning, don't you think getting up there is part of the success as well? I've experienced so many things where I didn't feel ready. I didn't wait till I was ready to do it. I was forced into a situation either because of a sense of responsibility, a leadership role, people were expecting something of me, or I wanted to try something myself that maybe I wanted to get better at. And then you go up there, and so maybe you don't hit a home run, but do you feel like it's a failure getting up there and maybe having a stutter or not being able to find your voice? Or don't you think that there's some success in just being able to get up there and working on that confidence muscle?
For sure, it's not a failure, and especially as I became an adult, so that was more clear to me. But how do you explain that to a 6-year-old or a 10-year-old or even a 15-year-old, who's trying to navigate school and life? It's not inherently a failure, but you can't really explain that to a kid.
Right. I hear that. So did you get up there and how did you feel? Like, were you not able to complete the service or did it take extra long? Like, just walk me through that experience.
At times it took me extra long and I got through it and I was like, wow, like, wow, great. I do even recall a time where I got up to do the Torah. It took me probably like 20 minutes or more, and I started through the whole thing, and I got off the stage, and I ran out of the shul. I think I cried the whole Shabbos. And I recall my parents just like not, I don't think that they knew like what to do or like how to handle it because, I put myself out there. I try. I went from speech therapist to speech therapist, and I had the guts to like stand up there, and to try and try and try. Um,
That touches me so much as a mother going through a similar scenario. You said your parents didn't know what to do. What could they have done? What do you wish they would have done? What can I do? How can we be supportive?
my parents and grandparents were super involved in this, and I think that they did exactly what they should do. They never pushed me to do anything that I felt uncomfortable with. But they also, if I wanted to try something, they would never say no because, oh, like you have a stutter, so like you probably shouldn't. I always said yes. Now that I'm looking back, I think that they probably prepared themselves for the aftermath of it. But to support, and to try to just have everything be as a normal kid because at the end of the day, even though I had a stutter, I was still a very friendly kid, and talkative. And that's how I was my like whole life. And I always said that I have the worst personality for a stutterer because because I like love to talk. So, but I think that you know, my parents did a fantastic job, but and I don't think that there's a right way to handle the situation. There are for sure like wrong ways, like stopping them from doing things or cutting them off and stuff. Um, but but I really wouldn't blame a parent for not knowing what to do because like how are you supposed to know what to do?
Sometimes my son will tell me what he wants to order, beautifully perfect, and he'll ask me to order it for him. And I never know what the best thing to do. Am I the most supportive mother for being there and just ordering it for him because he doesn't want to speak in this moment, in this scenario? Or should I encourage him to take the stage, so to speak, and place his own order?
I think that up until when I overcame this, I would have my mom or my dad or my grandparents or my wife. They would always do these things for me, and I think that people will definitely have a chance to do it on their own, right? Meaning, like you won't always be there to to help him, but it's very hard to have a stutter. So if you're there, then it will feel nice for him to just have the ability to go to a restaurant and just like, not have to think too much and just have a nice time, because there will for sure be other instances where he'll have to just do it. And it feels good to have an Aharon Cohen.
Aaron is from, of course, the biblical character, the brother, our high priest, and the brother to Moshe, Moses, the greatest leader of the Jewish people, who was known to have a speech impediment and has gone down in history as the greatest, most humble leader of the Jewish people. And his brother sometimes helps him, as you said. Did you ever look to religion, to the Torah, to Moses, to Moshe at all? Like when you're thinking about, I could be the greatest still, even despite whatever I might feel or society might interpret as a limitation, my stutter.
I mean, first of all, is that if you look at the story of Moshe, of like Moses, he started off and he basically like told God, like, no, like I can't be the leader. And then like God said, but like I am the person who put you in this place. And then I think that Moshe still felt, that he can handle it. And then God said, okay, well then your brother will speak for you. And if you look through the story, his brother did speak for him, but over time, here and there, he started to speak.
Yes.
And I think that is kind of what happened to me. I don't think I realized it as much before, how similar those two things are. But I do think that, that each year when we got up to the part in the Torah portion, that was a very like special week for me, and I felt like, wow, like I feel at home now. And at a certain point in life, when I got a bit older, at the synagogue that I was at for a few years, they called me up to the Torah just for that one specifically, because I think that they knew how much that could mean to me.
What does that feel like? Because again, so many people can relate to this, whether they have stage fright just from speaking, whether they have a speech impediment or not, whether they are not sure they know the answer, but they're desperate to participate, but they don't want to seem silly or stupid because they might get the answer wrong. What does that do to you, this like stop-start desire to speak, to participate, but to be held back? Because I think so many of us struggle with that.
It's incredibly hard. It's not something that I would want anybody to feel, because there's a difference, I also think, between stage fright and when you are scared to speak but you can, and when you want to speak and you cannot. It's like, or that you try to speak and you can't.
A very important distinction. Thank you.
Like you try to speak. So, and I think on top of that, the people who stutter, they have a built-in stage fright, but not for even speaking in front of a crowd, to talking to their friend, to going in order at a restaurant, to saying their name.
Yes.
Like for my whole life until age 25, I could not say my name. Like, so like, hi, I'm, and the most classic response was, oh, you forgot your name? And then I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, whatever.
And you went to so many speech therapists, and I think, if I understood correctly, 5%, it's like a 5 to 95% ratio of what is mental, right, versus a physical impediment.
Right. So you could even see now that I have a small twitch here and there. But throughout my journey, I spoke to lots of speech therapists, lots of former stutterers, and the one that really helped me and got me over the hump said, there are lots of techniques out there. I will teach you one, but what we will really work on is the mental part, because yes, like you have, and all stutters have this small thing inside them that causes it. But now you've been stuttering for 20 years, so you are terrified to speak, and that's what we have to get over. You know, and this person who helped me, his name is Larry Stein. He never charged me a penny.
Wow.
He speaks to whoever needs, and he will never charge them. He stuttered until he was in his 60s.
Wow.
He figured it out through a similar way that I did, because he really guided me. I credit 4 different people for my success: God, him, my family, and myself. But he was like so integral in showing me that there are different techniques that work for different people, but what you really need someone for is to help you to get over that fear of speaking. In my mandatory army service, I really wanted to do combat. It was a dream of mine since I was a kid. I didn't know if I could. In the end, I did do it. And I thought that I had the potential to be a great soldier from a physical perspective, from my motivation, and those things I think were off the charts. At the end of the day, I couldn't make a career or go further in the army than the basic that you can, because if you can't speak, then how are you going to handle like to lead a combat situation? So it was very hard to navigate that. All the people who I had in the army were very supportive. I have one story of a very high-ranking officer who when he walked into the room, I was the one who had to like introduce him, and I stuttered through it, and he made me stand in the middle of the room, and he laughed at me. And at that moment, my commanders all spoke on the side. They came to me afterwards, and they said, "We are going to handle this for you." And he was kicked out of the army, that man. But from then on, like all my friends, all my commanders were more supportive than they like could have like ever been. So it's very hard to have a stutter. It's very hard to go through these things. At times, it's very hard. It's very hard. It's very heartwarming to see the kindness that other people have while going through these situations. So that was definitely an intense, but a moment that had, in a sense, a very happy and warm ending.
Well, like, first of all, it's so painful to hear somebody go through that. It's so crazy because I really believe in people. I believe that people have such a big heart. And so I'm more surprised that there's somebody that would laugh like that, that could be so heartless. That's more surprising to me because I believe in humanity and people so much. And I'm also so pained by the fact that you have dreams for yourself that suddenly the door is closed. You have a dream to have a army career in combat and to be a general or a commanding officer of a brigade. And now that door is closed to you. I know you had a dream to be a chazan who leads the prayer service from a young age. You spoke about being in the type of synagogue that encourages participation from children at a young age. And you have a dream to be the leader of the prayers and to sing like on the bima, as we call it, on the stage in front of the whole congregation for the high holidays. And some of these things are closed off to you. I know some you have realized to some extent, but just that feeling that there's certain doors that are closed to you, how does one navigate that?
I don't even know how to navigate it. I think that what I did was I just chose things that I know that I could be successful in. So, I knew that anything that I would try, I would just put my all into, and I'd be great. So, I got into the data world and computers, and that's what I did for about 4 years. I still do it on the side.
Do you feel like I got into it because I thought it'd be good and I could hide behind the computer, and because I'm believing myself so much, I'll apply myself and I'll be excellent at it? But it's like, is it the second love? Like, did you learn to love it, or did you just do it because you needed a career?
I liked it. But as soon as I overcame my stutter, the first thing that popped into my head was like, why am I doing this?
Like, get me out from behind the computer?
Yes, and I still do it with part of my day because I'm good at it and I do like it.
Yeah.
It's not that I hated it, meaning I chose something that I think is fine, but it's not. But like I love to talk, and now that I can talk, all I want to do for my job is talk. Like, I mean,
You need a
that's it.
podcast,
That's it.
Hillel.
Yes, yeah. I considered it, but yeah. Look, I mean, even to to find a job, you still need to talk to find a job because you have to go through the interview process. I can't describe to you how many of the first like intro interview calls I had, where probably from the first like 2 minutes of the call, both I knew and they knew that they wouldn't hire me, which I don't really blame them, right? Meaning like you have to show your best self in an interview, and if they ask you your name on the interview call, so you'll probably just be, and then it takes you like 30 seconds to say it, but they couldn't understand it because you started through it. So then you have to say it again and you have to say it again. Yeah, not easy.
Do you ever feel despair? Like, did you like, I'm never gonna get a job? Like,
Of
how
course.
did you
I thought that a lot.
how did you keep going to interview after interview?
Well, what else could you do, right? You can't go get a job where you are going to be speaking, right? You can't go and do sales. You can't go and do most things. So you just have to keep going until someone takes a chance on you and gets to know who you are. And that was also a big part of my, my time at Aish. The people here are super quality. And on my first call, the person who interviewed me, he was just so patient. And they invited me back here. I was
I'm
here.
so proud of us.
Yeah,
Thank God.
it was great. Yeah, and I was here for an interview. And one of the people who interviewed me, I saw that he also had a stutter.
Uh-huh.
So a small stutter.
Uh-huh.
But I think that
And very different
yes,
than yours.
yes,
Uh-huh.
100%. But as hard as it is, there are good people out there.
Yes.
And you just have to wait for your time to find the good people as well.
I imagine dating is like quite similar to that. So,
100%.
but with like a whole different level of emotional anxiety attached.
100%. Usually once I get comfortable with someone, I don't stutter anymore. Meaning, at least back then, when I could barely talk, that's how it was. And with my wife, our first date went good. On our second date, I was carrying all of my army stuff because we started to go out while I was in the army. It was at night. I was super out of breath and like super thirsty, and I stuttered so much through the date that I didn't even know if it was a bad date because of our connection or because of my stutter. And in the end, we stopped going out after that date. We reconnected at a later point.
How much later?
I was actually on guard duty in Hebron, and her dad passed right by me. And we reconnected just through seeing each other there.
So that was how long after the second date?
Like 5 or 6 months later.
Oh, so quite some time.
Yeah, and there's a whole story in the middle how I'm not the kind of person who connects to praying at graves. And I was in Hebron as a soldier. And my friend and I had gone for pizza on our break between guard duties. And he said, let's go pray at Marat HaMachpelah, the cave of the Patriarchs. And I was like, why would I go pray there? It's a nice site for tourists, but it's not a place to pray. He's like, well, do you want to get married? I was like, yeah. And he's like, so go pray that you'll find somebody. And I was like, okay, fine.
There is a Jewish idea about praying
Correct.
at the grave sites of our holy, matriarchs, patriarchs, rabbis, etc. So
Right.
that is an idea, but you didn't
Yeah.
connect to it before, but now he told you.
Right. So he told me to. So I said, okay, fine. So I went and prayed. and I didn't think too much about it. A few hours later, I went on guard duty, and that's when she passed by me.
Wow. Oh, chills.
And at that moment, I said, I'm gonna ask her out again, and she also said that she will ask me out again.
Oh, I like her. I like her even more
Yeah.
now.
And after I finished the army, it was on the same day that we both had the same thought to ask each other out on the same day. And from that point on, she was at my side the entire time. If I would go to a restaurant, so she would order for me, and if I said stop for a second, like I would have a stab at it. She was she was always so sensitive to anything that I might need as a stutterer. It's even hard to say what she did because I couldn't have imagined a person who would be able to be at my side and so supportive.
And she knew what to do just intuitively.
I think that God, he set me the perfect person to be there with me through the challenge.
Ask me to show it like.
And I am super lucky, because there's, in a sense, a community of stutterers. Like there are a lot of people who stutter, and I've connected with a lot of them, and a lot of them have a very hard time with this, have a very hard time with the dating and to like find somebody who is their type, and who not connected to the stutter is a match for them.
Right.
But on a second level can also handle life with a stutter. I don't really have much words to describe anything else about this. It's just she always knows what to say. She supported me through the whole thing, even like when I was trying to find a job and had a super hard time on the interviews. There was never a point of like that she was upset at me. Like you like can't find a job. Like 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 I have to call the bank because you can't. Yeah, that's just not how it was, and it was. I think that definitely paved the path for me to be able to find a way to speak again.
I feel like I have so much to learn from her as a wife. Truly. I wish people could understand, like, this is not the same Hillel that I've ever spoken to before. I don't want to say the same Hillel I know because it's like you're the same person, but that I've spoken to.
Mm-hmm.
What happened in this last year?
My shul, we have a 2-year term for the gabbai, who is the person, who's in charge of the shul and in charge of the prayers. And there's a lot of logistics that go behind it.
Yeah.
But at the prayer service itself, you have to speak. You have to call people up by name, and you have to do a lot of speaking. And when I was asked to do this, I was like no way.
Were you like, why are you asking me?
Right.
Did you have that feeling?
I did have that feeling. Also because it's a large synagogue. I said like there are people who have like real life experience. Like I'm like 24. Like why are you asking me? They said that we want you to do it, and I said fine, but I can't call people up. And they said it's fine. So you can do all the logistics, and you'll find someone else, to do the speaking parts. And I said okay. And something that Larry Stein had taught me is that you have to put yourself in situations where you are going to speak and to succeed. Now, it's easier said than done.
Totally. Sounds like a good plan.
Yeah, because because a lot of what his method is try to speak like a public speaker. That's how you should try to speak. That is his technique, and he has a lot of specifics there. So I knew I had that, but I still didn't want to call people up. So for the first few weeks, on Shabbat, I had a designated person he was the one who called people up. One Shabbat morning, we start the prayers, and my backup's not there. and like 10 minutes pass and 20 minutes pass, and it's almost time to call people up.
Are you like sweating?
He's
Are
not
you
showing up.
nervous? Are you
Freaking out. Absolutely freaking out, because even a few weeks earlier, before I was the gabbai, if I got called up to the Torah and they asked me to say my name, I would also freak out because I can't say my own name. I can't say my name. I can't say the blessings. So like that was like my biggest fear. And I never said no to doing that, but it was still like, oh my God, like so like like that was the worst part of my Shabbat. And now I was gonna have to call up everybody and do all the prayers that have to do with that. And usually up until that point, if I if I was put in a situation in which I knew I had to speak and I knew that I was going to stutter through it, I would always just like pray to God. It's like, please help me not stutter. Please this. And I think that in general in prayer, we ask God for what we want. Please help me not stutter. Now, at that point, it became super obvious that I'm gonna stutter through it. And I felt in that moment that it didn't make any sense to ask God for something that I knew that would not happen, right? Because I had been in similar situations so many times before. So at that point, I changed my outlook to how I asked God to help me. At that time, I didn't say, please help me not stutter. I just said, God, please be with me at this time. It was just like, I know that I'll stutter through this, but if you are with me, then maybe I could get through it. And I did it. I called people up. I did stutter through it, but I got through it, and it was a different feeling at the end than any other feeling that I ever had. And I'm not sure why.
because instead of feeling like you weren't answered, you felt the loving embrace of God.
Mm-hmm.
Feel yourself being held up. I never in a million years thought to change the prayer when
Yeah,
it doesn't get answered.
meaning you can always pray for things, and you should pray for things that you want. But at times, to help yourself, you also have to be realistic. And I got through that first time, and I saw my wife like afterwards, and I called people up, and she's like, "What?" And same thing happened after Shabbos when I called my parents and my grandparents, and I said, like, you know, I I did it, and they're like, "What?" And I think also my friends who were in the shul, they were also in shock of like, he got up there and did it. And then I did it the week after and the week after. And what happened was I I was subconsciously getting over my fear of speaking because I had a supportive environment. At that point, I felt like, well, God is here and God is with me the entire time. And that was really the trajectory that helped me um, to do that. And after a couple months, um, my wife, she turned to me and she was just like, I think you're speaking a lot clearer now. And I was like, I think I am. And um, yeah, but
Did you feel your team cheering you on? Like you mentioned, your wife and your parents and your grandparents and your friends in synagogue and God. Like, did you just feel like he's the coach and everyone is just like cheering you on?
I really felt in the first 2 months, I will say that no, because it was a journey that I was happening without me even realizing it.
Yeah.
But at a certain point, it hit me like, hold on, like what's happening right now? Like I'm speaking.
It's happening.
Yeah, it's happening. And at that point, I had a realization of like, here's how I have to do my relationship with God, and here's how I'm gonna get to the end of my journey because it's not like I was able to accomplish all my dreams then, right? The journey continued past that
And
to
continues.
yeah, it continues now. If we're going next to the army part, so I got I got I got called up again about a year later, back to going to Gaza, and on our first day we were clearing a house, a house raid, and when you finish a house raid, we place a few soldiers at different windows to keep the house secure. And the person who was with me said, Hillel, I think that you should look at that porch over there because something seems weird over there. So I'm a sharpshooter, so I have a scope that I can see super clearly. And I look and I see two terrorists, one who has an RPG. At that point, I kind of just like hesitated because who I was up to that point was a person who like hesitates, right? Because before you speak, you hesitate. Before you do things, you hesitate.
Yeah.
And yes, I didn't have a clear shot, but I had this moment of like hesitation. And after that scene happened, I was super frustrated because I'm like, that's the old Hillel. That's the Hillel who was forced to hesitate. But I don't do that anymore. And the whole rest of that time that I was in Gaza, which was for another month or a month and a half, said like, I am not going to hesitate anymore. I think that being stopped in your speech or being stopped in a certain part of life, it stops you in a whole bunch of other parts of life. And at the end of that month and a half, we all sat down, my whole platoon, and I got the soldier of excellence, and they all knew how much that meant to me. Of like, wow, like we knew you
Long overdue.
Yeah, like when you couldn't speak, and you just showed in the past month and a half. That's probably who you really are.
So we spoke about a lot of your dreams that you had as a child and for your life and for your career. And one of them we spoke about was to be the chazan, to actually lead the prayers on the high holy days. And you've actually realized that dream recently. So tell me about that.
Every year, up until last year, I would be at the prayers on the high holidays, and I would
attending as a congregant, like
right.
we all do.
Mm-hmm. And I would be like, if I can't do this by next year, like that sucks. Like I know that I have a great voice, and I also went to school for cantors to learn how.
Really?
But because I loved it so much, but I could never do it. And over that first year of like when I was starting to break through, so I would do, with a small group to lead the evening prayers at night, and slowly build up to it. But every single year, while I was praying, so we would get up to the Ochila prayer, which is
I love that one.
Yeah, which is a prayer that talks about that God is the one, that you have your thoughts, and God, He's the one that that controls your expression. Like that's Him, that's Him, and it ends with something that we say 3 times a day, which is Hashem Tzavatay Tifsach Ufi Yagid Tehilatecha, which means God should open my lips so that I could sing His praises. And each year I would stop there for a very long time, and I would just ask, like, please. 1 second. It's very
very emotional.
And last year, for the first time, I had an opportunity because I go to an Ashkenaz shul, and I was the gabbai of an Ashkenaz shul, but I am Sephardic, so I created a Sephardic minyan, and I said, I'm going to lead it because because I've been wanting to do this my whole life. And when I got up to the Ochila part, I kept telling myself, like, like, you have to keep it together here because you are leading the prayers. But I would say that was like the climax of my whole life, like, happened right there. Because like every year for 20 years, I prayed for that, and it came full circle right there.
You prayed for God to open your lips and allow you to sing his praises. That is such a beautiful way, I was going to say, to complete this story and to bring us full circle and to bring us to this day. Hillel, thank you so much for coming on the show. This was such an amazing conversation.
And thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, we loved it. I'm sure everyone watching loved it. If you agree with me, then please like, subscribe, comment, and share. We love your feedback. We love your comments. We love when you help get this show out there and these important conversations out there in the world. It only happens because of you. Love you guys. Thanks for watching the Jamie Geller Show.